Service number 2 this evening on page 75.
Please stand. You shall call the Sabbath a delight. These lights we kindle are a symbol of joy. May their brightness lift our spirits and fill our hearts with happiness and peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishато b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
The Sabbath has descended to enfold us in its mantle of peace. It brings to us the precious gift of time to embrace family and friends, to reflect more deeply on the meaning and purpose of our lives, and to worship in the beauty of holiness. May our Sabbaths always be sanctuaries of love and devotion, bringing contentment to our hearts, happiness to our homes, and blessing to our people.
Amen. Page 76, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu vo'achem leshalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon mi melech malachei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu Kuni leshalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon Mi melech malachei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu Tzeihem leshalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon Mi melech malachei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu The Eternal One reigns, let the earth rejoice.
Let the many isles be glad.
Clouds and darkness surround you.
Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne.
Your lightnings illumine the world.
The earth sees and trembles.
Mountains melt like wax before you, O God.
Before the ruler of all the earth.
The heavens proclaim your righteousness.
And all the peoples behold your glory.
Zion hears and is glad.
The daughters of Judah rejoice in your judgments.
For you are supreme over all the earth.
You are exalted far above all other gods.
Light dawns for the righteous.
And joy for the upright in heart.
Let the righteous rejoice in you.
And give thanks to your holy name.
Yedi nefesh av harachaman meshoch avdecha el ratzonecha yarotz avdecha kamo ayal yishtachavel mul hadarecha ye'erev lo yedidotecha mino ve'tzuf v'chol tam Gilana ufros chavivi alai et sukat shalomach ta'er eretz michvodecha Nagila v'nismacha bach mahem ahuv ki ba'moed v'chonanenu ki me'olam. Page 92, the call to prayer. Baruch Adonai HaMavorach LaOlam Vaed. One of the great advantage of this arrangement is that I could very easily invite somebody to come and read the prayer on page 93 for the coming of the evening. Anybody going to come? Okay, if you want to come. Thank you.
We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe, whose word brings on the evening, whose wisdom opens heaven's gates, whose understanding changes times and seasons, and whose will sets the stars in the courses in the sky. You make day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light. You make day pass and bring on the night, and separate day from night. You rule the hosts of heaven.
Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravi. We praise your God, whose word makes evening fall. Ahavat olam ben Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu lemarata. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu uv'kumenu nasiach b'chokecha v'nismach b'divrei toratecha u'mitzvotecha leolam v'oed ki hem chayenu v'orech yameinu ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה. אדרת אחת הזה, ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. Southgate custom to stand for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Shem Kavod, Malchoto, La'olam, La'olam Vo'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך. וכשאתם לאות על ידיך והיו לו תותפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Another invitation for a reader.
All this we hold to be true and sure. You alone, eternal God, our eternal one, are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You have freed us from oppressors and delivered us from tyrants. You led us out of Egypt forever to serve you in freedom. When we witnessed your power, we praised your name and gave thanks. Willingly we accepted your rule. Then, full of joy, we sang together.
Mi chamocha ba'alem Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora teilot osef ele, nora teilot osef ele. Adonai yimloch la'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch la'olam va'ed. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב ולא מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Let us read together. Grant, eternal God, that we may lie down in peace, and let us rise up to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your wise counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield us from sickness and war, from famine and distress, and keep us from wrongdoing. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you are a guard and deliverer, a gracious and merciful God. Guard our going out and our coming in, that then always we may have life and peace. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu v'al kol yoshvei tevel. Amidah, the standing prayer, page 97. Adonai, sefatai tivta, ufi agita hilatecha. Eternal God, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכה חסדות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפו, מי כמוך על גבורות, עומד המלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה המתים. You are holy, awesome is your name, we have no God but you. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Let us be seated. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות et ha-Shabbat לדורותם, ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש, שבת שבת ויהי נפש, שבת שבת ויהי nafesh. And over the page, Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Shabbat. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Eternal God, be gracious to your people Israel. In your love, accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, b'yirah na'avod. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship in reverence. Modim anachnu lach, she'atah hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzor chayenu, magen yish'enu, atah hu lador vador. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפדות לך, ועל נשיך שבכל יום עמנו, על נפלאותיך וטובותיך, שבכל עת, ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך ולך נאה להודות. We praise you, God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due. We read together in English. Supreme source of peace, grant true and lasting peace to your people Israel. For it is good in your sight that your people Israel and all peoples may be blessed at all times with your gift of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Osei HaShalom. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. Some moments of silence. Yeyul ratzonim refi, Yeyul ratzonim refi, V'hegon libi lefonecha, V'hegon libi lefonecha, Adonai tzuri v'goali, Adonai tzuri v'goali. So Tisha B'Av is on Tuesday, the 9th of Av, and you should have received details in your weekly e-bulletin about the liberal Judaism commemoration for the 9th of Av, which will include a lecture or study session by Rabbi Dr. Deborah Kahn-Harris, the principal of the Learbeck College, and a number of different rabbis who will chant chapters from Eicha, from Lamentations, and in between there'll be other things. So you should have a Zoom link for that and the timings for that. But I thought we should mark it here at least on the Shabbat before. And so if you turn to page 377, we have a special reading for Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, by tradition, the days on which the temples were destroyed. The Jews they weren't expelled on that day, but the edict of expulsion for the Jews in 1290 was also the 9th of Av, and a number of other tragedies or challenges for the Jewish people are alleged to have happened on the 9th of Av. So this ancient season of mourning, we think of all God's children who have suffered and perished because of the cruelty of their fellow human beings. But we think especially of the agonies inflicted on our own people, the house of Israel, ever and again, from earliest until recent times. Sometimes we have forgotten. Others are sealed into our memory, a wound that does not heal. We mourn 100 generations of victims and martyrs whose blood still cries out from the earth. How lonely sits the city, once full of people, once great among the nations, now a widow, a princess among states, reduced to vassalage.
Bitterly she weeps in the night, tears run down her cheeks. There are none to comfort her amongst all her friends. All her allies have betrayed her and become her foes.
Judah, subjected to harsh oppression, has gone into exile. Living among the nations, she found no resting place. Her pursuers overtook her in the narrow passages.
It is nothing at all. You have passed by. Look and see if there is any pain, like the pain that has been inflicted on me.
What can I testify for you? With what compare you, O daughter of Jerusalem? To what can I liken you, that I may comfort you, O innocent daughter of Zion?
For your ruin is vast as the sea. Who can heal you?
Remember, God, what has befallen us. Look and see our degradation.
Our heritage has been turned over to strangers, our homes to aliens.
We've become orphans, fatherless. Our mothers are like widows.
God is the joy of our hearts. Our dancing is turned into mourning.
So it was for us at this season in the days of Babylon, and so it was again in the days of Rome. On the 9th of Av, the Judeans made another desperate sally, but were driven back by an overpowering force of the besiegers. The hour of the city's doom was about to strike, and in striking leave an echo that would ring through the centuries to come. The besieged attempted one more furious onslaught upon their enemies. They were again defeated, and again driven back to their sheltering walls. But this time, they were closely followed by the Romans, one of whom, seizing a burning firebrand, mounted upon a comrade's shoulder and flying his terrible missile through the so-called golden window of the temple. The fire blazed up. It caught the wooden beams of the sanctuary and rose in flames heavenwards. I mourn for Zion and cities like a mother in her anguish, like a young woman in mourning for the husband of her youth. So it was for us in ancient times, and so it has been many times since. Exile and persecution. How often has that been the Jewish fate? Whole communities were destroyed during the Crusades. We were held responsible for the Black Death. Jews were banished from almost every kingdom in Europe, until in 1492 the fateful expulsion from Spain was ordered by royal decree. In Poland, in the Ukraine, in Russia, anonymous thousands suffered pogroms and death for being Jewish. And only recently we drank more deeply than ever from the cup of sorrow. A world without Jews. That was the intent of Hitler and the Nazis. A voice is heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping. Rachel is weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted for her children, for they are no more.
These things do I remember through all the years, ignorance, like a monster that devoured our martyrs, as in one long day of blood. Rulers have risen through the endless years, oppressive, savage in their wickedness power.
Filled with a futile thought.
To make an end of that which God has cherished.
All this has come upon us. Yet we have not forgotten you or been false to your covenant.
For your sake we have been slain continually and have counted as sheep for the slaughter.
O God, do not be silent, do not hold your peace or be still.
And those who hate you hold their heads high.
They plot crafty schemes against your people and conspire against those who seek your shelter.
They say, come, let us wipe them out as a nation, that the name of Israel be remembered no more.
But there is hope. There is hope because even in times of deepest darkness, there was courage, compassion, and decency. The human spirit was not entirely defeated, and a remnant of our people survived.
These are the stars whose light reaches the earth only after they themselves have disintegrated and are no more. And there are men and women whose shining memory lights the world after they have passed from it. These lights which shine in the darkest night are those which illumine our path.
There's hope because powerful though the forces of evil are, the force of goodness is mightier still. There is hope because of our belief that God's purpose will in the end be fulfilled. There is hope because of our faith that at some future time, human beings will respond to the good within them and the God beyond them. And as partners with God, will usher in that longed-for age of love and amity, friendship and peace, for us and for all peoples. The optimism of the prophets, which has become the optimism of Judaism, issues from the faith in God's concern for this world. The moral law, which rules history, assures that ultimately the world will be changed into the better world, which God's rule requires. Thus says the Eternal One, restrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your work shall be rewarded.
And there is hope for your future, says the Eternal One.
For I know the plans I have for you, says the Eternal One, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. You will call on me. You will come and pray to me, and I will hear you.
You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart.
This I call to mind. Therefore I have hope.
Surely your love, O God, never ceases. Surely your mercies are unending.
They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness.
You, Eternal One, are my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in you.
Let us search and examine our ways and return to God. Ashirenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. So those of you who are with Rabbi Michael Stanfield tomorrow morning will hear a haftarah, hopefully a consolation, because we're approaching Tisha B'Av. I think that's what you'll hear in the morning. But suffice to say, the Torah portion he will read from is Devarim. Devarim, which is in the book of Deuteronomy in Hebrew, tells us that we finished the narrative, which began in Exodus, or even began in Genesis, but was crucially in Exodus, tells of the slavery of the Israelites. Forget the book of Leviticus, which is a rude interruption. And the book of Numbers tells the story of the escape of the Israelites once they left Egypt and their preparations, and they were on the point of arrival at Canaan, the Promised Land. The book of Deuteronomy, which is clearly later than the book of Numbers, is, if you like, Moses' ethical will. Moses' final addresses to the people of Israel. He knows he's not going to the Promised Land, and he wants to remind them of their history and their theology. But it's called Devarim, which has nothing to do with Moses, because it says Ele Devarim. These are the words which Moses spoke. And you may remember that old primary school motto, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And the interesting thing about the name Devarim, which is a masculine plural, it comes from the root ledaber, which means to speak, or to say. And so this could be, these are the sayings of Moses, these are the words of Moses, or these are the things. Because Devar can mean a thing or a matter. And I have the privilege to represent the ward of West Finchley in the London Borough of Barnet. And you may or may not have noticed that North Finchley, which is in my ward, was one of the 100 announced targets for an extremist, this time a right-wing extremist, march. And tell you the exact address, it was a place called Percy Road. It was all over the internet. And apparently, here's me as representative board, apparently some years ago there used to be an immigration advice centre there. It's been closed for years. But there's a Chinese family who lived next door, and they were pretty worried about what might happen. And in the end, so I had to debate whether there was a counter march called, which, by the way, in one of his posters said, remove fascists, Nazis, Zionists. So that was one reason why I chose not to go, because I knew that the chances were I would end up in a confrontation with somebody supposed to be on my side, quote unquote. But the other thing is, between us, and I know it's going on over the internet, the police advice was that if you have a counter-protest, the police have got to police the counter-protest, protect the counter-protest. They can't concentrate on the other people they want to concentrate on. If you're a local representative who might be known, and happens to be Jewish, and they didn't say this to me by the way, but I gathered, I have a particular responsibility to protect somebody like me who's there in a public. So I didn't go, and indeed I didn't go partly also, greatly, because we had a council meeting that night, and we're able to appoint our new associate rep. So there were lots of reasons why I didn't go, but that's not the point I want to make. The point I want to make really is that sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will never hurt us. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work when mass media, for example, and social media can say something, i.e. that the 3 children in Southgate were massacred by a failed asylum seeker, illegal immigrant, failed asylum seeker, which was not true. It was a Cardiff-born Rwandan whose parents had been here a long time and were certainly not illegal. But the story that went around that it was such a person enabled many people to metaphorically get their knickers in a twist, if I can use that term, and agitate, many of them drunk, by the way, many of them, as I always say, when marchers say from the river to the sea, they don't know which river they're talking about or which sea, they just found a slogan which they read somewhere and repeated. And similarly, many of these people, 58-year-old man, and if you saw, who's never been in trouble before, has just received, I think, a 3-year prison sentence. For, I have to say, and have great sympathy for him, he was behaving like a violent thug, criminal violent thug, no other, and somebody else was testifying, I've got half Indian grandchildren, says one of them. So that's an excuse to go out and say certain things and riot and burn down places and protest in the way in which they protested. And it should remind all of us to be cautious about what we say. Because there was a time when, if I said something to my neighbour, probably only 4 people heard about it. If I tweet something to my neighbour, thinking it's only going to my neighbour, but it ends up being retweeted, or whatever the term now is, re-X'd, goes viral, and millions of people see it, they've lost the context of what I was saying, number one, and enables those who want to cause trouble to slightly reinterpret or add something to the words that cause tragedies. And what happened was a tragedy for everybody. First and foremost, a tragedy for the people who were terrified. And they were, I had shopkeepers and my local residents were frightened, some of them. It was a tragedy for those who get involved on either side in silly things that then mean they end up being punished, and maybe their families being punished, because prison is whatever people say, if you ever been inside one of Britain's prisons, they are not very nice places to be. And if you're 58, they're not places to be, and if you're 21, they're not nice places to be. There might be nice places for people who are very used to it, but most of the people involved in the rioting were not used to prison. Look at the people who were already been sentenced. One, it's true, had a strong and non-criminal record, but most did not. And many of them were drinking probably too much in the pub, and ordinarily would have gone home, but heard somebody say, come and do this, come and do that. You know the reason you don't have this is because of them. And before people knew, they were swept along in terrible scenes of violence that was a disgrace to be seen on our streets, any streets. And I know there are lots of accusations, it's ironic, isn't it? The police are accused of two-tier policing. On this occasion, white people are saying, you let off the blacks. On other occasions, the blacks are saying, you police us too heavily. Maybe the police is probably doing the right job, if everybody thinks that. But that doesn't mean, of course, the police have to restrain themselves, and it's amazing what they put up with. I mean, I know we saw a recent case in the airport, and clearly a police officer did lose the plot. No doubt about it, and will face criminal charges there. But in general, there are our sons and daughters, and there are our grandsons and daughters facing spitting, fireworks, poles, kicking, punching, insults, and most of them turned up to work to do a day's work. And it's right that there's now an offence called, I think, called assaulting an emergency worker. Of course, you can assault anybody. I think it's aggravated if you're a police officer, an ambulance person, a nurse, a fire officer, trying to deal with a problem and you get further attacked. And so I've been thinking about divarim as meaning words and deeds, or words leading to matters or actions. And it's a lovely play in the Hebrew that we need to reflect upon, that our words can have, sometimes they're intended consequences, but very often they're unintended consequences. Yeah. A drunk person who says, let's go and have a bit of fun, doesn't always realise, it's told it's going to be a bit of fun, quote unquote, very nice words, doesn't always realise what the implications of that bit of fun becomes. And so, Varim, just for me, and particularly on Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is a day that commemorates the worst that human beings can do. And I'm afraid I'm not, for all sorts of reasons, I'm not greatly sympathetic to social media companies, but I think some of what they have allowed to be said and their millionaire bosses say has itself been irresponsible. And of course, we all want freedom of the press, and we want freedom of expression, and we don't want to be controlling what people think, and nor should we. But we do have to think about the way they should control what people say. And if you say things, either in public, or on social media, which is a form of public, much wider public, particularly our elected officials have said things that maybe they would have been wiser not to say. All of us have to think about what the implications are for the matters that are currently at hand. Aleinu, page 520. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לכד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו, אמת מלכנו, ככתוב, ידעת היום, והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. Foot to page 521. נאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. As we prepare to recite the Kaddish on page 524, we think of those who once shared with us the joys and burdens of life and who are no longer in our midst. Sadly, I must first report the death of two of our members, Ruth Goldstein, whose funeral will take place at Cheshire this Sunday at 11 o'clock, with Shiva prayers at 150 Wellington Road, that's the home of Lizzie Gilbert, at 6 o'clock in the evening on Sunday. And her death perhaps was, she was in hospital, but in Whittington, but perhaps was less unexpected than that of Charlotte Waxley, who died in her home in Hampstead Garden suburb and is subject to a sudden death coroner's inquiry. So we don't have the details of that funeral at this moment. As we think of those two, our members, we think too of those whose yahrzeits occur on this Shabbat. Barry Mathiasen, husband of Tina and father of James and Nicola, of Eddie Lewis, father of Lee, of Harry Adler, father of Susan, of Lawrence Adler, brother of Susan, of Doris Wade, mother of Ruth Roy, and of Hannah Bassara, a mother of a friend of the Cranstons. So, of course, as is regularly, James and Lee are with us, and our thoughts are with you at this moment. And we hope that the pain of loss is mitigated slightly by the inspiration of those who you recall at this moment. I haven't seen any other mourners on Zoom, and if I haven't seen you, but you're there, please know that to be with us, but we can't see you at this moment. Kaddish, page 524. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agalav izman kariv v'meru, Yehei shemei Rabbah v'varach l'olam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ah v'yitmam v'yitnasei, Yitadab v'yitalev talam, shemei d'kudusha barichum, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, Tosh b'chata v'nechamata, Tameran b'alma v'meru, Yehei shalom araba min shemaya, V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'meru, Osei shalom b'meromav, Hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei adam, v'meru. Please be seated. Many exciting things to tell you about, but most importantly, at its meeting on Wednesday, the council unanimously agreed, and he assigned the appointment of a second rabbi to Southgate Progressive Synagogue, Rabbi Daniel Newman. You have to have Newman, you have to have Daniel to remain to be the rabbi here, but and he will formally start with us in November. But we're hoping that he will do a few services in September and October, and on October the 6th, he and his family will be at my home, and Laura and I will be offering tea there, and another opportunity for you to meet him before he formally starts with us in November. The second thing to say is that we've recruited some volunteers into my office, and one of the things they will be doing is, before you get a yahrzeit letter from us, they will telephone you to say that it's coming, and that your yahrzeit is due, and if there's anything you would like to do in the service, and then the letter will confirm what you've agreed to do. So that's a change from the way we currently do things, and it's all about this trying to make us less transactional and more relational, as they call it. A lot of our members pay their subscription, they don't want to hear from us, or they don't hear from us. That's fine if they don't want to, but what we're trying to do is build up relations with them, build on the work of those who come before us. And so that bit by bit, people begin to find a Jewish meaning to their lives, maybe in services, it may be in classes, maybe in socials, maybe in volunteering, whatever it is. And we've got lots more space for volunteers. I mean, of course, I'm always preaching to converted, that's the problem. Now, all rabbis, all clergy preach to converted, because they're the ones in the pulpit pews. But we're getting the message through. And in fact, the two volunteers that we have don't come regularly to services, but they appreciate the community that supported them, and they want to do something to give back. And so we're still looking for a treasurer, to say that by the by. And services go on throughout August. Tomorrow, Rabbi Michael Stanfield and the Shiur. Next Friday, Phyllis, take the late service at 6:30. No Chavurah Supper, no Zooming, but 6:30 in here. Franklin will again. So
It won't be on social media.
Oh, it won't be on some social media, forgive me. I think Franklin will be here. The Shabbat morning again will be Rabbi Michael Stanfield. And I think then I'm back, and I think we might be having Daniel Newman. He has a half-time job somewhere else, so he has to negotiate. Probably in the last weekend in August and the first week in September. You'll definitely, I'm pretty sure we'll be here for the September family service. So we're easing him in January. But come November, he'll be a regular. We'll be doing one Friday night a month and one Shabbat morning a month, and work in the Ruach and family services. And it's great news not just for me, but it's good news for me too. But it's great news for us. So anybody who doesn't like my style, I say this very publicly, they've got another, they already have a choice of Michael Stanfield, now they've got a choice of Danny Newman as well. So it gives people us more, and it's historic, because I think it's the first time we would have had more than one rabbi in our books. Is that right, Barbara, I think? Yeah. So there's lots to look forward to.
Hopefully a baby blessing on Trinity 4.
Yes. We hope so, yes. Our Torah class, which is 6 weeks from the beginning of September, it's 2 weeks, one off, 2 weeks, one off, 2 weeks, leading up to Simchat Torah, will take place on the Mondays in September and the beginning of October. We've already had some good sign-ups. It's high quality education, and we think we're going to be joined by people from Finchley and maybe people from Elstree. So it's a great opportunity. You'll have more than one rabbi teaching. Not Danny Newman, he won't do the Monday evenings, I'll do the Monday evenings. But Rabbi Gershon Sillins will join us for some of them, and sign up. Barbara can tell you where the sheets are to sign up. And there's lots going on. We're not a small shul, we're a big shul. And there's lots we can do. And with more volunteers and a new rabbi, we may be able to inaugurate the rabbinic team in January or something. Have a special celebration to do that. But because Michael is part of our team, of course, always doing the regular second Shabbat of the month. Anything else, Barbara, I need to say now?
Only that when Synagogue Finchley will be joining us, Synagogue is here.
Thank you. That's Saturday the 29th of September. 28, thank you, for Slichot at 9 for 9:30. We'll serve a bit of refreshments at 9. 9:30, Franklin and the musical team will be here, and Rebecca and I will lead a musical and liturgical service preparing for the High Holidays. High Holidays, your ticket will come soon, so you will get your ticket, they're not ready yet. You'll get a leaflet about all of our festivals during this month of Tishri and about the High Holiday Appeal. And Sukkot and Simchat Torah will also be with Finchley. And just goes on. There's loads going on. Chavurah suppers, Friday nights, Shabbat mornings.
Friday the 20th of September is the next one.
Next Chavurah, 6:30, 20th of September. And by the way, we had 36 people at this one. I know a few of them are visitors, but nevertheless, we don't mind making visitors welcome. So 36 people at the Chavurah supper. I'd like us to get to 50. Not that we'll close the books, but it's great. And by the way, we had Franklin playing music, not liturgical music, but just playing music, which enhanced our evening, and I think we're going to do that again. So that's also great. Anyway, I've gone on for long enough, but I'm very excited about what we're doing. So I'm entitled to go on occasionally, or all the time actually. What are we going to end with? Jane, what would you like to end with, Jane? Go on. Maya Fe Hayom. Okay, at least that's brief. Maya Fe Hayom. Shabbat Shalom, Vayafe Hayom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.